Hello again to another Agricolor Reaction. Today is 13th February and tomorrow is Ash Wednesday, so today is Pancake Tuesday here in Ireland. So we're gonna watch the wonderful history of pancakes from Tasting History with Max Miller from August 2020. So let's see how much history is there to pancakes. This is not about actual Shrove Tuesday or Pancake Tuesday. I think it's just history of pancakes as in a dish. So let's just go and see where they come from and how much history there can be about pancakes.
Is there a food that kind of makes you feel not so great after eating it, but you love it so much you just eat it anyway? Maybe it's too fatty or too salty or sweet or just too rich in general, but every time you come across it on the menu you say, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, I'm getting them. Well, for me, that food is pancakes.
Really?
Basically, after I eat a stack of pancakes...
A stack of pancakes, so American pancakes. Okay, because the ones they're gonna get today here, it's more like...
But today I
crepes?
may have found a recipe that actually might work for me. It's from Cromwellian England, so mid-17th century, and it's a pancake with no butter and no lard. A pancake for absolution. That will make sense later, so just stick with me.
Okay,
this time
let's see. Well, England, so yeah. Yep. You know what, if you think about it, there's a lot of paintings with people eating food, like old thing, isn't it?
1658 cookbook, The Complete Cook, expertly prescribing the most ready ways, whether Italian, Spanish, or French, for dressing of flesh and fish, ordering of sauces, or making of pastry. So I don't usually read the full title of these old cookbooks because, as you can see, they tend to go on. But I love this one because how often do you read a title that has curly brackets in it? Anyway, to make fine pancakes fried without butter or lard, take a pint of cream and 6 new laid eggs, beat them very well together. Put in 1/4 pound of sugar and 1 nutmeg or a little beaten mace, which you please, and so much flour as will thicken almost as much as ordinarily pancake
What's an interesting nutmeg or mace
the pan
in there?
must be heated reasonably hot and wiped with a clean cloth. This done, put your batter as thick or thin as you please. Alright, so yes, the recipe doesn't have butter or lard, but it does have 6 whole eggs and quite a bit of sugar, so I may still not feel well after these. But you know what? That's my cross to bear, and I'm going to soldier on. So for this recipe, you'll need 1 pint or 475 milliliters of cream, 6 eggs, 1/2 cup or 113 grams of brown sugar, 1 whole nutmeg or 2 teaspoons of ground nutmeg, or 1 teaspoon of mace, and 2 cups or 240 grams of flour. Now when it comes to the flour, the recipe gives you a lot of leeway because it doesn't tell you exactly how much flour to use, and it says that you can make it as thin or thick as you want. I like a fairly thick pancake, not like a crepe, so I went with 2 cups, but if you want something more like a crepe, just reduce it to maybe 1.5 cups, and if you want it a little bit thicker, then just add some more flour.
Yep.
So first, it's a good practice to mix your eggs off to the side in a separate bowl before adding them to any of the other ingredients. You don't have to, you can just toss them on in, but sometimes you get shell and sometimes they don't mix right, so it's always good to mix beforehand. Then pour your cream into a large bowl, then add the 6 eggs, and beat everything together until nice and smooth. So I whisk the cream and the eggs together for quite some time because
I'm going to learn some history about...
to give the pancakes.
Or is this just a recipe about historical recipe for pancake?
Baking soda or something, or yeasted pancakes to give them a rise, but these pancakes don't have anything like that, so the eggs, that's all you got to give it any fluff. Then pour in the sugar and whichever spice you're going to use, and beat those in as well.
And that's
Finally,
all
add in your
the flour,
and mix it nice and gently, just until there are no clumps. You don't want to overmix the flour because it can become kind of chewy. So you can use all-purpose flour for this recipe. I would steer away from bread flour.
That is really rumbly. I'm very sorry. That would be for the team for this week, I guess.
Whole wheat, stone ground pastry flour from Bob's Red Mill.
Okay.
They make a really nice pastry flour that's perfect for a nice delicate pancake. Now that your batter is mixed, you can go ahead and leave it for about 20 to 30 minutes, either in the fridge or just out in the open with something covering it. And it'll give the flour some time to absorb all the liquid and just relax. And while the flour relaxes, you too can relax while I explain the history of pancakes.
There you go. So there will be some history as well in it. Cool.
Pancakes are frankly difficult and not worth eating at all. unless
Really?
they are of paper thinness and succulent tenderness. Vogue magazine, 1935. Well,
Okay.
Vogue magazine, when it comes to those cerulean blue military jackets by Yves Saint Laurent, you may know what you're talking about, but when it comes to breakfast foods, you're out of your league. Pancakes have been eaten all over the world for thousands of years and in every possible form, not just paper thin and tender. 5,300 years ago, poor Ötzi the Iceman enjoyed one last meal before being murdered and frozen for posterity in the Italian Alps. And
Murdered?
what was old Ötzi's last meal?
Who murdered
That's
him?
right, a pancake. Kind of. See, scientists found einkorn and charcoal in his stomach and deduced that what he probably had was a primitive form of pancake. Granted, instead of sausage or bacon, Ötzi opted for dried ibex meat, no longer available with the Rudy Tooty Fresh and Fruity breakfast, but you get the idea. Now, Ötzi would not have had a sweet pancake like we have, or really anything that we would associate with pancakes.
No
For
bacon.
that, we have to go to
No maple
ancient
syrup.
Rome. On the streets of ancient Rome, you could get a lita dolcia, or another sweet. It was basically a pancake made with milk, flour, and egg, just like today. They even put some spice in it and drizzled it with honey, a precursor perhaps to our modern-day maple syrup. Pancakes spring up in almost every culture around the world. Around the Horn of Africa,
Precursor?
they have something called
I wonder if you
injera,
kinda
which
think
are
about it, look.
huge pancakes, very thin, made
Whoa.
of teff flour. And
Those
they're
are
used
looking
not
nice.
only for eating, but as the actual plate itself, and often the utensil. And if you have an Ethiopian restaurant near you, I suggest going and having a meal, because they will serve this injera, and it's just a really cool experience. So, go. In Japan, they have a
Yeah,
savory
wish I
pancake
could.
called okonomiyaki that's made with flour, eggs, cabbage, and sometimes pork or even octopus, something you probably aren't going to find at IHOP. You can find pancakes made of rice called chatamari in Nepal, and in every part of India, they have some form of pancake. There's dosa made with fermented batter, or patishakta, which I've always wanted to try. They're stuffed with dates or coconut or a sweet thickened milk. I love that stuff. And speaking of stuffing pancakes, that's a thing everywhere too. Ashkenazi Jews fill blints with cheese and fruit, and in Hungary they have something called gundel palacinta, stuffed with walnuts and
That
raisins
looks
and topped with chocolate
tasty,
sauce.
weirdly enough.
And sometimes they even put rum in it to flambe it. And flambeing pancakes, well, that's a whole thing too. One of the most famous pancakes in the world, with quite the origin story, started with flambeing. Supposedly, it was in 1895 at the Café de Paris
95.
in Monte Carlo, when the future King Edward VII was dining with a lovely young woman named Suzette. Then, in the words of their 14-year-old assistant waiter, Henri Charpentier, it was quite by accident that the cordials caught fire. I thought I was ruined. The prince and his friends were waiting. How could I begin all over? I tasted it. It was the most delicious melody of sweet flavors I had ever tasted.
Interesting.
The prince ate the pancakes. He asked me the name of that which he had eaten with so much relish. I told him it was to be called crêpe princesse. Will you, said his majesty, change crêpe princesse to crêpe Suzette? Thus
Okay.
was born and baptized this confection, one taste of which I really believe would reform a cannibal into a civilized gentleman. Who knew cannibalism was so
Interesting.
rampant a problem in late 19th century Monaco? But while every culture has their
good
own
comment,
pancake,
true.
I mean, I have like a list of 50 I could have gone into, so I apologize if I skipped over your country, but we'd be here all day. But the actual name pancake comes from English around the 14th or 15th century, about the same time that we start seeing what would become the favored method of fundraising for the Boy Scouts and elementary schools all over: the pancake breakfast. Shrove Tuesday, a day to be shriven
There you
or absolved. I told you we'd get back to this.
Yep. There you go.
Shrove
That's
Tuesday,
today.
or Fat Tuesday, or Mardi Gras,
Or
was the last day a
Pancake Tuesday.
medieval Englishman or Englishwoman could gorge themselves into oblivion before the 40 days of fasting.
If you
called
see the video
Lent.
on my
And
video on
what better
Thursday,
way to
we
gorge
go and
yourself
have it Fat
than with
Thursday.
a pancake breakfast.
And we eat
On the
donuts.
morning of Shrove Tuesday, the whole kingdom is quiet. But by that time that the clock strikes 11,
I kind of would
there
like
is a
some
bell
pancakes
rung,
now.
called the pancake bell, the sound whereof makes thousands of people distracted and forgetful of manners or of humanity.
Wow.
Then there is a thing called wheaten flour, which the sulphury necromantic cooks do mingle with
Necromantic
water,
cooks?
eggs, spice, and other tragical magical enchantments. Then
What's
they
the
put
other
it
thing
by
there? Look,
little
guys.
and little
It's
into
here.
a frying pan of
that supposed to be
boiling
a waffle?
suet, where it makes a confused, dismal hissing like the Lemnian snakes in the reeds of Acheron, Styx, or Phlegethon. Until at last, by
Fair
the
enough,
skill
yeah.
of the cooks, it is
This piece here.
transformed into the form of
Looks kind of like.
a pancake, which ominous incantation the
could
ignorant
be, isn't
people
it?
do devour very greedily. Now, John Taylor, who wrote that in 1620, did not actually believe that the pancakes were of the devil. It was written with a bit of tongue-in-cheek, kind of mocking the church at the time
Okay.
and, some
yeah,
other
of
institutions.
course.
But I love it. Anyway, after
Okay,
filling their
none of
bellies
it.
on a
That was
pancake
good.
breakfast, the town people
Whoa.
somehow got up the energy to play games and sports, including one called mob football, which is exactly as it sounds. Then, stuffed and probably battered and bruised a bit, they would make their way to the church to ask for final forgiveness before the 40 days of Lent. Now, while the pancakes we're making today would have come out of this same tradition, I feel like the absence of suet and magical enchantments, for that matter, kind of lifted up out of the muck in the mob football world and into the light, sophisticated pancake that we know today. The kind that takes me 24 hours from which to recover. And I can't wait to get back to them. So let's do it. So per that original recipe, you'll need a pan or a griddle wiped with a clean cloth, and then put on the stove about medium heat until it's nice and hot. Once it's hot, rub some cold butter on it just to give it a nice coating, and then dole out your first pancake. Now, depending on how thick or thin your batter ended up being, it's going to depend on how long you're going to leave it on the griddle, but really
I
what
just
you're
ate,
looking
but I'm
for
hungry.
is for the top to go from shiny to matte. And if there are any bubbles, for those bubbles to all have popped. Once that happens, leave it on the griddle for about another minute, and then take it off and repeat ad nauseum. This recipe made me about a dozen pretty good-sized pancakes. So if you want more, double it, and if you want less, who would want less pancakes? It does not compute.
No, it doesn't.
So here we are, our 17th century pancakes. They look gorgeous, they smell amazing, and you can really get that aroma of the mace coming through, which I'm excited to taste. So how do we eat these? We can eat them plain, which was often done. Now, you didn't get like a stack of pancakes. You just got a pancake or two pancakes, and you ate them with your hands.
You were just
Another
eating them
way
while
to
they were
eat
made.
them
That's just like on
would
my
be there
home.
are stories of putting honey
pancake
on
is
them,
made
or
and
berries or
who had the
nuts,
first one?
even sugar or salt.
And then,
oddly
you
enough.
know.
So I'm going to try one plain, get the flavor of the pancake, and then I'm going to try one with maybe some nuts and berries and honey.
Nuts and berries.
So here we go. Plain pancake. Flat, warm. Let's see how it goes.
Just probably pancake, huh? With the flavor of mace in it. Never had mace though.
So the texture is a lot like a modern pancake, though maybe not like as fluffy, not as airy, but still very soft and tender. really something you'd recognize. What you won't recognize is the flavor, and that's due to the
Mace.
rather large amount of spice. You know, that's a lot of mace. It's not overpowering at all, but that's definitely the flavor that's coming through. And I think if you're going to eat them plain, they need to have something like that.
Yep.
You know, now we put maple syrup on it, or boysenberry maybe, and so that's the flavor that kind of dominates, and pancakes
Boysenberry?
is kind of a vessel to your mouth. But the flavor needs to be spice, and that's what it is. And the sugar, it's nice and sweet, but not overpowering at all. Now let's try for something a little more overpowering. We're going to put some berries and honey and nuts on there.
They look nice, but it's not enough berries for me. If they peanuts.
Actually, way too big a bite. Okay, so once you add all of the accoutrement to the pancake, they really take over the flavor. You can still taste the mace, but the honey and the berries especially kind of really take over, and I kind of like that. It's a little more complicated. Honestly, I might not do all three next time, the nuts, the berries, and the honey. Maybe just honey to give it kind of a sweet golden flavor, whatever gold tastes like. or just the berries. Maybe like a compote actually would be really nice. Anyway, yeah, I love pancakes. They're just so good. They were good 400 years ago, and they're still good today. They were probably good when old Itzy was eating his einkorn pancake.
What is
He got
einkorn?
murdered. All right,
Yeah,
so if you
murdered.
end up making your own pancakes, whether they be modern or from the 16th or 17th century or going back to the Roman times, please make sure to share pictures with me on Instagram and Twitter. I'll put my handles down in the corner here.
Tasting
or in the
History with
description.
Max Miller.
And I will see you next time on Tasting History.
Well, I don't really have. Yeah, I want some pancakes now too. By the way, Max, you made me hungry despite the fact that I just ate. So, what to say about this? That was interesting. Still want to know what the einkorn is. Let's just check out. And who murdered that guy? Is it E-I-N? I don't know. Let's see. Einkorn. Oh yeah, okay. So you can see here, einkorn is diploid species of hulled wheat with tough glooms husks that tightly enclose the grains. The cultivated form is similar to the wild, except that the ear stays intact when ripe and the seeds are larger. So here you have einkorn, wheat. Can we just see this picture? Oh. No, okay, let's just go back. Okay, so basically it's kind of like a proto-wheat thingy. And yeah, so, like I said, I just ate right before I started recording, and I think that was a mistake. Because my belly is now grumbling on. I did have a fish spice box leftover from yesterday. So basically, now I was just grumbling, and probably it's loud in the microphone. The microphone is really good. So, but the pancakes, it just, I kind of consider them more of a dessert stuff. Although sometimes we would have them for dinner when I was at home. So yep. So I kind of want some pancakes now. But first have to stop recording, finish recording. So thank you very much for watching, and I see you tomorrow. Bye!